So we're going to actually start with number 2 here. And so some things from the graph are really easy to find, that being the amplitude and the vertical shift, which is that midline. Okay, or at least we use the midline to determine where that vertical shift is. So when I'm finding the amplitude, remember the amplitude is the distance from the midline to a maximum or minimum. One way to find that is to figure out what's the full distance between our minimums and maximums. Well, from -4 to 4, that's 8. And so half of that is 4, making my amplitude 4. So based on where that amplitude is, that helps me kind of pin down where the midline is, where that vertical shift. And that midline is still just on the x-axis. So there is no vertical shift. All right, again, all the graphs I'm going to have you do not have a phase shift, so you can just ignore that for now. And now the period, there's kind of 2 ways of how we can track down the period. One way is to focus on those 5 key points that I keep referencing. So being a midline, maximum, midline, minimum, and when we get back to that midline and hit those 5 key points, that's a full period. And I can see that the distance from where I started to where I get to that last midline point, so that should be a little bit further, is the distance of pi. So the period here is pi. And now to find the b value, because that's what's in the equation, not the period itself, we need to remember that the period is 2 pi divided by b. So if I take the way we find the period, so 2 pi divided by b, and set it equal to where our period is at right now, which is pi, I can solve for b, which we need in the equation. So I'm going to multiply both sides by b. That gets rid of me dividing by b. So 2 pi equals pi times b, or pi b. And then to get b by itself, I just need to divide both sides by pi. And I get that b equals 2. And so now I have all the values that show up in our equation. The equation being y equals the amplitude, which is the a value. It is worth making sure that, or just checking, is it positive or negative? Well, since I'm going from my start at the midline up to a maximum next, that just confirms that it is positive. So 4, all of these graphs on the front, we're going to write as sine. So 4 sine of the b value being 2, so 2, and then let's use x. If you want to use theta, that's okay. There's not any difference. I've been giving those, all the ones we've done have had theta, but x would work too. Okay, so you're going to do 3 and 4. I'm going to have you flip this page over, and I want to do one cosine graph with us. And I'll be quiet for a little bit. Okay, on the back side, so everyone flip the page over, so we're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9. This time I'm going to have you skip 7 for now. And we'll come back to 7 after we've kind of finished the next lesson. And we're going to work on 6. So just like before, the distance between the maximums and minimums, in this case, is 1, 2, 3, 4. So half of that is our amplitude. And so the amplitude here is 2. Based on where that we see that amplitude, that can help us pin down where that midline is. So the midline, or vertical shift, has been shifted up 2. Again, we're not doing any with phase shifts yet. And so now I just need to find the period. Now, another way to find the period, yes, I could go through my 5 key points. So maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. And once I get back to that maximum, there's a full period. Now, another way to kind of track that is the distance between the maximums or the distance between the minimums. That will always end up being your full period. Okay, and that's basically what we have here, right up top. The distance between those maximums, I've covered one full cycle and traveled a full period distance. Now, if you look at this, all the graphs we've dealt with have had, our x increments have been like radian amounts. These are just normal numbers, right? So each square is just representing one here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our distance between maximums is 4. And so that's our period. Okay, the period is 4. Now again, we need to find the b value, because the b value is what goes into the equation. So I'm going to set 2 pi over b equal to 4. I'm going to solve for b by first multiplying both sides by b. That gets rid of me dividing. So 2 pi equals 4b. And then to get b by itself, I just need to divide both sides by 4. So 2 pi divided by 4 equals b, which reduces down to pi over 2. Okay, which is different than all the graphs we've dealt with thus far. Okay, so in our equation, that b value that I'm going to add in is pi over 2. Now once again, I'm going to pay attention to if this is positive or negative, since I'm starting at a maximum. For the cosine, that confirms my a value is positive. So it's y equals 2, and then cosine of pi divided by 2x, and then plus the vertical shift of 2. Okay, so again, skip number 1 and number 7. So you have 4 graphs to write equations of. We're going to go over all the answers for these. So work with your groups. Try to agree on similar answers, just like we've done group work before. And then we'll go over these in, we'll call it 10 minutes. Okay, about 10 minutes we'll go over these.